There goes Davis. Oh my God! Davis is going to run it all the way
Here
back.
Comes pressure. Bortles sees it coming. Looking for Wharton in the end zone. Wharton behind the defense. Oh! Are you kidding?
The first Saturday of May feels an awful lot like a football Saturday. Thousands streaming in wearing their Ducks colors on a Saturday morning to see Mark Helfrich in his second year as the Oregon football coach. The spring game once again honors the military. That's not Marcus Mariota. We may see him briefly here today as we welcome you to Oregon Spring Football, the final Saturday of spring football on Pac-12 networks. And Glenn Parker with all of it. Second year for Mark Helfrich. A lot of enthusiasm for Oregon football. They just haven't been able to get the ending right the last couple of years. But what a brilliant motivation for them to know they've got Marcus Mariota coming back.
Absolutely. Marcus Mariota, a guy that in the spring you kind of build your habits and you build your routine. And what that enables you to do is become the player in the fall that your physical tools say you should be. Marcus Mariota, he's embraced that. He is a guy that, in order to be great, you have to make the routine in order to become and make the great plays hard, get those done. So you look at his career, obviously a guy that runs this offense very well, but you look at the passes, the touchdowns, kind of almost obscene numbers for a quarterback, and yet every time you see him, he gets better.
Yeah, only 3 losses in his starting career, but 2 of them to Stanford. That's the painful memory here in Eugene. Well, Mark Helfrich is embarking on his second season now as the Oregon football coach, and let's check in and hear on his thoughts on the spring game with Jill Savage.
Coach Helfrich, how would you assess this spring overall?
Productive. It's been good. I think we've really kind of gotten a little bit better every day, which is kind of everybody's goal always, but we've actually kind of accomplished it, which is rare, and really excited to see the guys compete today. There's a high level of trash talk going on in there, and splitting up the teams and competing and playing as much of a game-like atmosphere. We know that's what the fans want. We know that's what the players want, and so we're excited to kind of put an exclamation point on spring ball.
We won't see him much likely today, but Marcus Mariota will be back for the 2014 season. What were your thoughts, and now that it's been able to sink in for a little bit, having Marcus back for another year?
Well, it's huge. I mean, obviously Marcus on the field kind of speaks for itself, but in every other phase, that's so huge. A guy like him, a guy like Hronis, a guy like Ifo, those guys coming back, committed to the program, and then being the leaders in the offseason program, that's immeasurable. I mean, you can't manufacture that in the offseason, and so turning the team over to them at this stage is awesome.
And Nick Aliotti now working with us at the Pac-12 Networks back in studio. Don
Pelham
Pelham
has all the answers. Officially has all the answers, right?
And Don Pelham now stepping into his shoes. How's he done so far?
He's been great. You know, it's we're undefeated and unscored on right now, so he's doing a great job. But no, I think you know, DP's a guy who's just been primed for a long time, and is one of those guys that when stepped up into the new role has done nothing but embrace it, and you know, I think the players have really taken to him. And again, it's not, you know, everybody compares obviously everything we do to Chip Kelly, and now it'll be everything, you know, compared to Nick, and it's different. You know, it's not better, not worse, it's different, and I know we all want to get better.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Ted, back to you.
Well, you heard Mark Helfrich refer to it. They've chosen sides. They're going to try and play as serious a football game as they can have for the Oregon spring game. We'll have the kickoff from Eugene next. Saturday morning in Eugene, but I'm telling you, they opened the gates here at 10 a.m. and thousands were streaming in, a lot of students. You see a nice turnout for spring football in Autzen, and Mark Helfrich admitted last year's game, because of a lot of reasons, didn't go quite the way they wanted. They were really pushing hard to try to simulate as close to a game as they can today.
Well, they've got a built-in game factor, and that's this big crowd. So if you can do that, it's good. And the way they're going to, with this format, the way they're going to game score, traditional scoring for the offense, but you got to give the defense a little something. 3 points for a takeaway, that's huge, and a point for a 3 and out, and 1 point for holding the offense to a field goal. So,
and unlike other spring games where you see it play in terms of teams, first team offense, second team defense, etc., the players themselves chose the teams. They had a draft.
I wish I could have been there. Yeah. I mean, the talking that must have gone on and the way they got after each other to pick their team.
And Marcus Mariota, you saw Marcus Mariota and his center, Hroniss Grasu, chose the players for one team. Tony Washington and Ifo Ekpre Omolu, defensive players, chose the other team. And they're split up wearing olive green and wolf gray today.
Wolf gray.
Yeah. Well, it is truly an Oregon day. And everybody in Oregon did this very, very well last year on this very spring day when we were here at Glenn to salute the military. So you see it on the back of every player's jersey says salute the day. And the importance of this program in this state is evidenced again. A terrific turnout for a spring football game at 11 a.m.
You mentioned the gates opening and people running. You and I were almost caught in that that stampede. And I walked over from downtown today and just people streaming in, cars coming off the freeway. A big event in the entire state of Oregon, as you said.
And coming off another excellent season, 11-2 Alamo Bowl victory. The biggest blemish, of course, was the head-to-head loss to Stanford 2 years in a row. That has cost Oregon a chance to play for the conference championship. And that will be the game that's going to be circled on everybody's calendar here in Oregon this year. So they are going to run back at least the opening kick. Mark Helfrich was telling us they would really be limiting the amount of kick returns today for the obvious reason. That is Dior Mathis, returning that kick. And so we'll see. This is Mariota's team that is going to have the ball first. We'll see if he comes out to play. And we don't expect, if he does play, that he'll take very many snaps and certainly not going to put himself in position to get hit very much. Evidenced by the jersey.
Put a big red one on him. Say, guys, don't touch this particular player.
Of course, an injury did hamper Mariota in the month of November last year, the month where Oregon lost both of its conference games. He played through it, played admirably. And a first down run goes to the left. Thomas Tyner is a young man that we saw break in last year, Glenn, that you figure is going to play a much bigger role in an offense where they run the ball well.
Yeah, a local product from Aloha High School right up the road, and highly recruited. And I think you're absolutely right. They're gonna seek to expand his role.
And once again, going quickly, Tyner pushes that. This time stopped after a gain of a yard. And it's well known to Pac-12 fans, very well known to Oregon fans, but this team runs the ball unbelievably well. It is contrary to what used to be the wisdom about this offense.
Yeah, it kind of was it's spread throw, but you mentioned the run, and then you just saw the graphic with the national numbers. Those weren't Pac-12 rankings. Those were top 10s and whatnot throughout the nation for some of the numbers they're able to put up at this program.
That is Dwayne Stanford with the catch of that throw from Mariota. And we'll finish on that thought. Oregon has led the Pac-12 in rushing 8 straight seasons. 8 straight. Mariota using the feed, and this is what he does so well, and then finally just runs to first contact. And the play is stopped as soon as he touches the defender.
Now, Mariota, it's a lot like Brett Hundley. When you're 6'4", 220, you're covering a lot more ground than it appears. So that's why he gets so many yards. I think it's deceptive. You don't think he's getting those yardage, but yet because of his length, he's really extending it out there.
Yeah. Well, I referenced it, I think, early last season, and folks picked up on it and started talking more about it, but he just is, in so many ways, Mariota reminds me of Colin Kaepernick, and that's one big way in that his stride can be deceptive. Once you see it, you get it.
Right.
But he chews up yards.
Chews up yards, and then with that size, much like, I mentioned Brett Hundley and Colin Kaepernick, because they're bigger, smaller guys, when they're in space, bounce off of them. They're much tougher to bring down for a smaller player.
So Tyner with a run play there that going to get a first down for the Mariota Grasu team.
And there's his rushing yards record for number of yards.
Already a school record. There was a late pitch, and that's a nice one. That went to a wide receiver. There's an interesting little twist as he pitched that ball to Dwayne Stanford. And if there's any story to watch today for the Oregon football team, it really would be wide receiver. That's the position. It's the questions that we all threw at Mark Helfrich and Scott Frost this week.
Yeah, the top 4 returning pass catchers are gone or have been hurt. If that would include Addison. So finding a replacement for those numbers, that's what they need to do. We'll see who develops and kind of shows themselves today.
And of course, Josh Huff, eligibility up here at Oregon. Braylon Addison, ACL tear early in the spring, so that is a significant loss, and that is the reason for the emphasis on finding who will be the targets for Mariota. Nice swing there, but the defense strips the ball from Oregon. And the fumble's recovered by the defense.
Mariota gets it out, and Bassett with the catch. And we'll see how the ball security is here. Does he get 3 points on the ball? It's a little bit away from his body, so a hand can knock it out. He does a nice job, looks like he does a nice job of covering up. And there's the hand as the ball gets away from the body. Great job of poking it out there. And that was Tony Washington on the recovery.
Yeah.
Couldn't see the number of the man that forced that turnover.
All right, so Kenny Bassett was the receiver there that fumbled the ball, and now it is Oregon's Jake Rodriguez to work. And there's Jake Rodriguez's numbers. He is battling to be the backup to Mariota, battling with Jake Locke. A quick strike here and 2 completed passes quickly by Rodriguez. Darren Carrington, who is a guy that isn't going to play much today, but he gets an early touch here despite having his hand in a cast.
Well, I like what Rodriguez did there. It's a comeback route. It's deep, and he waited. He was patient. He didn't keep his eyes on his receiver and was able to throw into some space that opened up.
A quick throw there to Marshall. Byron Marshall, the other top running back for Oregon. Mentioned Jake Rodriguez and Jeff Locke are the quarterbacks that are contesting for the position to back up to be number 2. They both were involved in this competition last year. And Rodriguez uses his legs.
And that right there is as much a picture of, yes, they have mobile quarterbacks, as it is the importance on defense of staying in your gap. You miss one gap, you don't cover it well, and if it breaks down, things open wide up, open for the offense.
Jake Rodriguez may be a guy today that's playing with a little bit of an edge, a little urge. Scott Frost, the offensive coordinator, told us that he thought that Jeff Locke, had separated just a little bit from Jake Rodriguez during this spring in the battle for the 2 spot. That Rodriguez, Scott Frost saying to us that the issue just to be a little more consistent, to be consistently making better decisions.
You know, what I just said earlier about making the routine, building your habits, that's what spring's about. It's tough to make the great plays with unless you're consistent on all the easy plays. And too many guys, I think, want to make the great play and don't just do their job, and that's what spring's about. We're going to look at a little roll away, throw back.
Nicely set up there to Byron Marshall.
Got some of the big fellas out blocking for him.
There, Marshall going to be strung to the sideline, and there's our first flag of the spring game. Bell Oregon, whichever side has the ball in the spring game, they will be looking at the fine young people to come in. And you see, of course, Josh Huff and Braylon Addison with the 2 primary receivers. Keenan Lowe will be back, but there's an awful lot of catches gone.
Yeah, and when you look at that, okay, D'Anthony Thomas, running back / wide receiver, but the guys coming back, there's only one wide receiver in that group. You've got your tight end, Mont, and a running back. So they have to find wide receivers out there with speed to cover ground, to run the sweeps that they run with them. So that's a lot of receptions in one area gone.
And the ball to Keenan Lowe, so he is now he's the veteran of the wide receiver core. And it's something we talked, Glenn, the other day with Mark Helfrich about the role, and we're not seeing it with Jake Rodriguez here, but the role that a Marcus Mariota can play now as a third-year quarterback coming back to help younger receivers develop.
Absolutely, and going back just to reiterate what they've lost. Looks like what I've been picked.
Out of the back of the end zone.
To reiterate what they lost is last year, a huge percentage, 68% of all receptions went to wide receivers. So if you lose the vast majority of that, how do you go about developing those young guys? And you're right, Marcus Mariota, with his ability to run, his ability to deliver the ball in some space and in tight spaces, can help those wide receivers. And I think that's something they're going to have to, that'll be a real battle all through the fall, is to get that ready going into the season.
Reggie Daniels coming down out of bounds, so a long third down, and Rodriguez pass is broken up. Nice play over the middle by Mathis. Well, actually, that's Daniels again. Reggie Daniels, so 2 straight plays. The previous play, everybody here was looking, including Mark Helfrich, was looking up at the video board. They wanted to see a replay of that massive jump for the ball in the back of the end zone. All right, field goal try here for the Ducks offense. 43. That one's not going to make it. I'm not sure if that may have been tipped on the way. Matt Wogan with that try that was short and wide. So Tweefo's team comes up just a little bit empty on their first drive. No score yet in the first quarter of the Oregon spring game. So much activity outside Autzen Stadium, food drives, the National Guard on hand as the military saluted in Eugene. All right, that's the Tweefo team. Tony Washington and Efo. That's how they came up with the names of the teams. This is Mariasu with the ball. Mariota and Rasu picking the teams. I don't think those names were supposed to get out, but they did. And you heard Mark Helfrich reference with Jill that there was a little bit of talking going on. Guys were taking this one a little more seriously, not just a regular scrimmage.
Could you imagine if you're like a roommate of one of the guys and he doesn't pick you, he picks somebody else? Oh, you're a little upset.
Now there's Tyner getting outside. Ooh, and Tyner came close. Came close to busting that one down the far side.
And you see what Oregon has had in abundance the last few years, and that speed at the running back position.
And another topic that we see coming into play right here, in this example, pace of play, which, of course, we all know again about Oregon, but was very much a topic of conversation this winter in the college football world. Is there's a good defensive play. Raheem Castle, linebacker on that stop for Oregon.
Well, you know, the thing is, there was a lot of talk about that issue, but like anything, the speed of play will be countered by something on the defense, and that'll be countered again by offense. It's the way football goes.
So Mariota with a little play action fire. That's Koa Kaei. Tight end from Honolulu, a junior. And again, Mariota going to get outside, going to run out of bounds inside the 30. We mentioned this really became a hallmark of Chip Kelly's tenure here and then carried into Mark Helfrich's first year. These are all national ranks. We mentioned lead the conference 8 straight years in rushing. And if you asked a general Pac-12 football fan who led the conference in rushing last year, what do you think the answer would be?
I think they would look at, they would probably say Stanford
yeah.
or maybe Arizona with Kadeem Carey because of his numbers.
That's true. But my thought would be most fans would just say Stanford.
Yeah.
It's just the way Stanford plays. Yet it's been Oregon that did. And by the way, the Eagles led the NFL in rushing in Chip Kelly's first year. And Mariota gets it down close to the 20-yard line. Back to the pace of play question, Glenn, which Scott Frost thought said something interesting. He said, we have now gotten to the point where we speed things up enough that sometimes things, when we go through our paces, it feels slow. It feels slow.
That you know you're doing it right when you can do that, where you get out of sorts because you're not going fast enough.
Wide open man. So there's your first score. Thomas Tyner flooding out of the backfield.
Yeah, safety came up on a route, and that split the middle of the field wide open. They lost count of who they had on one side, and when they did that, the safety, you'll see the safety flying up, so that the man on in the middle turned him loose, thinking the safety was back there. Just a miscommunication and a misidentification.
So the Mariasu team, that has a nice ring to it. It kind of flows. That scores the first points.
Sounds like a resort in the South Seas. Where are you going? I'm going down to Mariasu.
Eric Solis kicks through the point. And so there are the first points of this Oregon spring game.
Oh, look at, nice. Puts it right on him. And that's, something that he needs. I thought personally that Marcus Mariota, there's not many things to work on with his game. I mean, you watch him, he's really polished and getting better. But sometimes he misses the wide open shot. And it's a rarity, and yes, I'm picking nits on that one, but sometimes he misses it. And that's, I think, something you look at and go, he had him open, knew he was open, and put it on him.
All right, I would wonder if that isn't all we'll see of Mariota for this spring game.
I would think you're probably correct. They might have him go one more, but I don't know. He's done what he needed to do.
And it's funny, Glenn, because other players from here, I mean, so much talent here, but players, Terrence Mitchell, DB, DeAnthony Thomas, left school to turn professional with eligibility left. That Mariota and Ifo Ekpeolumu were the two players that could have and didn't, that chose to come back. And it really goes across the conference with quarterbacks. Brett Hundley had the same decision to make, and Brett Hundley decided to come back to UCLA.
It can work both ways, and both sides there's a reason for doing it. If you're a player who is, like a running back's a good example with Anthony. He's got eligibility remaining, but he needs to get his clock started. Is he going to be any better of a running back with another year under his belt? No. Can he finish his degree? Yes. Remember that you get slotted in with your rookie contracts in the NFL, so you need to start that clock faster, some of these guys, because running backs have the shortest career, whereas a quarterback can have a nice long career, and being in school and being a little more polished helps him. So both sides have the argument to stay or go.
All right, again, a live kick return. That was Jaylen Brown fielding the kick for the Ducks. Well, there's another staple of the Oregon offense is line 2, and how quickly, in terms of elapsed time, they score. And since we welcome Nick Aliotti to the Genius Club, Glenn, you're a charter member.
Yeah, I'm right there.
Nick, I'm sure in our studios we'll talk about this fact, because we would come up here to do games the last couple of years, and Nick would talk about, hey, it's a challenge to play defense here. And there's a muffed handoff that is covered.
And what happens so many times is just what becomes your definition of success then. If you're a defense and you're playing this offense, it's really then just about can we win? And there's Taylor Ollie.
Yeah, so this is a young man that has been one of the players that the coaches here at Oregon speak of highly off this spring. He'll be a redshirt player in the fall. Ooh, and that one goes out in the flat and is caught for a short gain. Good tackle there by the Oregon defenders. Pass caught by Evan Bayless. Then we get a timeout taken on the field. So Taylor Alley is a local player that about the only real college opportunity he had to play was at Linfield College. Chose to come here, walk on. Now he's competing.
The whole we talk about how good some recruits are and whatnot. We rank them now, which would have never happened. Guys are going to fall through the cracks because everybody matures at a different level. If you'd have seen me as an 18-year-old, you would have said, no way was that guy ever going to play football and be in the NFL. Well, at 20, I was ready to play. So, boys are a little different. They mature so differently that I think you have to be patient with some guys.
And now gets a chance here on third down. And he's got a man. Whoop. Behind the receiver. Would have been a first down gain. And the ball sailed just behind Ayeli Ford. So it'll be a 3 and out on the first opportunity for Alley to play in the spring game. So Wogan will punt. We'll see if they actually have a live return here. Again, asking Mark Helfrich the other day would indicate there would not be live kick returns. Yep. Well, interesting. They're really playing this for real. Live punt returns.
Well, that's the benefit of having great recruiting over the last 10 years or so. You've got depth, and you might not worry about it as much.
Eric Dargan being counted on to be a starter to step in the secondary for the Ducks this year. And so a good drive start here for the Mariasu team, and it looks like it's going to have Mariota coming back out, so he'll play a third series. Kenyon Barnard back. Braylon Addison. We're going to have a chance to talk to Braylon Addison. Probably needs a lot of boosting going on today because it's tough for him. We've seen it in this conference the last couple of years. Arizona last year, Austin Hill had it, missed the entire season.
The hardest thing for a football player or any athlete, and you'll see it throughout high school and in college, any athlete that suffers their first tough injury, the physical side of getting over an injury is kind of easy. It's the mental side of getting over that injury that is so tough. Then once you've done it, you realize there's a process. They get easier. But that first one mentally is devastating for young athletes.
And so back at the 42-yard line for the Mariasu team here. Game officials trying to make sure they've got everything right under the rules. Mariota's play, the previous play was blown dead for a loss of yardage. That's why they're getting the spot right at the 45-yard line. Now he's got it in there. So Mariota's maneuvering, the freedom, the motion, buys time, and he finds Devin Allen, Devin Allen, who's one of the emerging names of this spring as well for Oregon football. A track standout. Allen makes the touchdown catch.
Well, you just see that mobility and his eyes downfield. The right tackle gets pushed back into him, a bull rush. A nice job, recognizing it, feeling it, getting away, but his eyes stay downfield. He's not looking to run the ball. He's looking for a target, and he finds him. Allen on the receiving end there. So there you go. Again, things that he does well. The physical skill set we see, the ability to deliver the ball we see, but those eyes looking downfield, looking for the kill shot rather than the 10-yard gain.
A nicely thrown ball on the run by Mariota. So it ends up being a 45-yard throw to Devin Allen for the touchdown. And with the change on the Oregon staff, with Nick Aliotti retiring after a successful long run here, Don Pelham, who's been on the staff for quite a while, steps from the linebacking coach position to become the D coordinator. He's working the sideline today. This was the decision he wanted to make for the spring game.
Yeah, you know, it's his first chance to be in this position where he gets to talk to the guys, hear what they're saying, and who knows whether he'll move up in the future or not, but get a feel for what it is you're putting yourself in for. Good to see him get the chance to become a coordinator.
There's a terrific continuity on this staff, the Oregon football staff. That's been one, and it was important. Chip Kelly has been well known. Chip Kelly turned down a chance to go to the NFL because he wanted Mark Helfrich to succeed him. That didn't happen in time, so wound up being the win for Philadelphia. They got Kelly the next year. And they just, you know, coaches like, you know, Gary Campbell's been here for 31 years. Steve Greatwood that recruited you.
Right.
That's how long he's been around.
You're right. And, you know, and so under Rich Brooks, some of those coaches are still here, and the Bellotti era, the Kelly era, they're in that continuity creates confidence. A kid being recruited knows that there's a good chance the coach that's recruiting is still going to be there in 5 years. And, you know, some of these places, you get a turnover of staffs every 2-3 years, trouble. And this is Rich Brooks Field, an incredibly fine gentleman, Rich Brooks.
Yes.
Just had the opportunity to see him a year or so ago at Dick Tomey's birthday party, and love seeing Rich again. He's a good man.
Like many of the Rich coached here in the 80s, and you come back to see Autzen Stadium now, and it doesn't look very much like it did when Rich was coaching here and when Glenn Parker was playing against the Ducks on this field.
Yeah, it's grown quite a bit. Obviously, there's been an infusion of some money, and they've done well with it. And they, you know, Rich started that process. He built this team. Yeah. He started the whole process, and away it's gone.
But laughing as we keep telling Glenn, that right there, what you see at the top of your picture, that was the press box back in the day here, where we're sitting didn't exist. This beautiful side of the stadium, and it's been so improved. There's a little different look. And that's Jonathan Lloyd getting his first touch today. A terrific play by the Oregon defense there.
Where Tuitalia sniffed that right out.
Yes. Tuitalia making the play on defense, but there's a great story. Jonathan Lloyd, who has just finished a very good career at Oregon as a basketball player, part of a really good Oregon basketball team, Sweet 16 last year. But he has a year of football eligibility, and he's using it to play for the Ducks, who's a high school footballer. This one not to Lloyd, and that's defended beautifully. Nice defensive job. We'll get back out to that pass was intended for Lowe, but here's Jonathan Lloyd. And, yeah, just a little bit of a little trickeration there.
Yeah, take the snap, through the legs, back to Lloyd, and poor Lloyd's thinking, I never got hit like that on the hardwood.
All right, so Oregon's not holding everything back. They've shown a few wrinkles in the first quarter of this spring game, but the Mariota Rasu team up 14-0. Second quarter to begin. There'll be a punt here, and while they play on to start the second quarter of the Oregon spring game, we're going to hear from a very vital piece missing, sadly, for the Oregon football team right now. Jill?
That's right. Braylon Addison here with me. Tore his ACL earlier in spring. How did it happen?
Just going through some drills in practice, making a cut, and my knee just gave out on me.
And you've already had surgery, now going through rehab. How's that going? I know it's really early on.
It's going really well. Just making progress every day, trying to stay positive and continue to be a good teammate, and, you know, just taking it one day at a time, and, you know, just the road to recovery.
across the Pac-12 now. The last 3 seasons, we saw Paul Richardson at Colorado, Austin Hill at Arizona. Now you have torn your ACL as well. Mentally, how do you deal with that, and how do you try and come back from that?
You know, I think you just got to be positive and keep faith in God. You know, you look at guys like that, and also a ton of guys in the NFL who've had that experience, and you know, just try and stay positive and continue to work hard and don't get down on yourself, because it is a mental process as well as a physical process. So I think the biggest thing is just staying positive and continue to be a good teammate.
And before the injury, you were thought to be a big piece of that wide receiving core. Now that you're out of the picture, who is going to be stepping up? Who are some of the names that we can look to?
I think, you know, a lot of the guys have a lot of, you know, potential. You know, Keenan Lowe, he was already there last year, 2 years in a row. He's been a good guy for us. You know, we got guys like Chance Allen, my best friend, Devin Allen, Dwayne Stanford, Jonathan Lloyd coming over from the basketball team. We got a ton of guys out there, so I don't think I'll be missed that much. You know, I think that's the good thing about this team is, you know, we have a lot of depth and a lot of talent. So I think we'll be fine. And, you know, I think, you know, it's my job out there to be a coach from the sideline as a player also. So, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing the guys work hard this year.
Well, thank you very much, and best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Ted?
All right, Jill, thanks. Jeff Lockie is now quarterbacking for the Ducks in this possession. Saw a wild scramble after a muffed punt, and it was very interesting to me watching the reaction of the sideline players. They're jumping up and down.
There's bragging rights on the line.
Exactly. It's an interesting 3-man stack.
I enjoyed listening to Braylon Edison there. He humble, understood that it was very much a mental process as well. The fact that he doesn't think he'll be missed, that he wants to coach, that's a kid who's on track, and obviously he was on track as a player. We saw that last year, making plays, great speed, awareness, and then this is supposed to be a double pass, and instead he understands not to make the throw and carry, and folks, just a phenomenal player.
Well, this was the game. We were here for this game against Cal, and he was electric. And this is what I thought, the return man element of his game is what people can overlook, right? Talk about the receiving core, but what a dangerous return man.
Yeah, they can forget that all the yardage and that he was able to help out with in special teams, and that's another hit that they're taking.
Yeah, 2 that night, 2 returns against Cal. So Jeff Lockie. And he'll fire that one away. There's Jeff Lockie's background. Well, it was interesting to read that because his dad was actually born and raised in Buffalo. Jeff Lockie grew up a diehard Bills fan, so he must have a Glenn Parker bobblehead somewhere buried in his closet.
They're collector's items.
Yeah, he's a Buffalo Bills fan. Grew up in the Bay Area. Oh, he was got away with one there. I think they're actually going to blow that. They may blow that dead. He'd been hammered in a live game there.
He'd have taken his shot. And credit, you know, defense right now doing a nice job finding where they need to be, reading his eyes. So the coaches are getting a good look at a lot of different players today, and who's going to step up for him, who's going to mature a little bit, who's going to have the right habits, so they can go into fall knowing what their roster is going to shape up like.
All right, here comes Taylor Alley back out to quarterback. This is for the Twifo team that has the ball. And is that going to be a pick? I believe they're ruling it is. The ball did not hit the ground. So an overthrow there by Alley and an interception by Tyree Robinson, who's another new name for Duck fans. They've got some holes to fill in their secondary.
Yeah, they do, and this is a bad decision by Alley. He's got a double move on, so when he comes out, receiver's coming back to the sideline and is in time with him. But rather than eat that ball a little bit, he comes back inside the receiver. Tough throw to make. A nice job by Robinson there to get that ball.
Tyree Robinson is a freshman. He'll be a redshirt in the fall from Lincoln High School, San Diego. And again, you've got a couple of pretty good players, Avery Patterson and Terrence Mitchell, that are finished here, and those are some significant holes to fill. Going to run a double here. And then tripping is it's Devin Allen. They tried to get the track man a chance to get his speed going.
Well, you know, you got a quarterback you're not allowed to hit out there blocking for you. So defense had a bit of an edge.
And it's interesting because Devin Allen is a top flight hurdler. And he got tripped up by the turf there. Now Lockheed will go back and slide on this loose ball.
See, there's the difference right now between the two quarterbacks. Ali on the rollout, the routine play is to eat the ball, run out of bounds. So you make the easy play instead of trying to make the great play. And right there, Lockheed ball on the ground, the great play is to try to pick it up. But the routine play is to fall on it, live to fight another day. He does the right thing. That's what you're looking for.
Set up a little 3rd and long screen. And decent yardage for Kenny Bassett, but short of the first down.
They leave a lot of yards on that play because your guard or tackle out, the first offensive lineman out, throws, meaning he's trying to cut the defender rather than staying on his feet and letting the running back set that block up. So it was all a little out of time, and they don't get what they need.
See Mark Helfrich today, he's not coaching either team. He's got his assistants doing that. He's overseeing the entire operation. He's literally a general today. Watching the strategies unfold from higher ground. Jonathan Lloyd is back to return this punt. Somehow the substitution didn't go properly. It'll still be 4th down. Now this was Jonathan Lloyd, who went to Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, and when he played football in high school, he was also a dynamic return man. Oh, that doesn't work.
Might have got there a little early.
Well, that doesn't happen as often in basketball. Jonathan Lloyd being reminded what football can be like as he got smacked there by B.J. Kelly.
And so, you know, you learn 2 things from this play. You learn Lloyd's going to stand in there, and he's going to take his shots. And you also learn that, okay, B.J. Kelly, we need to be a little smarter, right? So teaching points for both players there. Things you know, learn a little bit about your guys.
There's Scott Frost talking to Kelly as the fun continues at Autzen. Since the Pac-12 became the Pac-12 and split into divisions, the North battle has been between Oregon and Stanford. And on this field, a year and a half ago, it was Kevin Hogan and Zach Ertz connecting that huge touchdown pass. Stanford pulled off the stunning win in overtime. And then last year, stunning in a different way, as Stanford literally ran over the Ducks. And in both cases, that game determined the North champion, allowed Stanford to play for and win the Pac-12 championship 2 consecutive years. So don't you think November 1st is going to be a slightly significant day here this year? That will be the Stanford-Oregon game for 2014 on this field. As Rodriguez quarterbacking here. All right, so Glenn, as you look at what has happened for Oregon, what do you take away from this?
Well, obviously points per game because that's what's decided, but you look at the rushing yards. When you're averaging 308 yards a game and you get held to, 130 against 2 teams, when you're the leading rushing team in the conference and you hang your hat on your ability to do those things, you take away that Stanford figured out a way to take away the best weapon of the Ducks, and without your best weapon, you're obviously going to struggle. And that's, no one else has figured out how to do it, and Stanford the last 2 years certainly has that number.
Incomplete pass while we were showing you that. I mean, there's something, Glenn, to the way that Mark Helfrich was talking with us the other day about how we lost 2 games last year. Here's a breakthrough run inside the 30-yard line. That is Kenny Benoit, freshman from Phoenix. A good gain there, takes that ball to the 27, and he'll get it again.
Well, the inside zone, that one hits all the way back on the backside of the offensive line. But you'd be surprised, you actually watch that play. It's a straight line run by that running back. It's just the whole pile moves as he keeps going. And having run the zone not without the read most of my NFL career, I know the way it works and the way it actually looks on film versus what you think it looks like. You know, a lot of fans will go, well, that looked like a big cutback. It wasn't a cutback, just the pile moved.
All right, well, there's a fumble and a turnover. And congratulations there for DeForest Buckner. Forced fumble there, and another takeaway for the Mariasu team.
Big hand on the ball. Buckner who forces it.
Well, they're giving Benoit there got some good action. He got 3 straight plays, and on the 3rd play, ball jarred free.
Again, what do the coaches learn about you in spring? Number 1 word for a coach is trust. They have to trust you. If they trust you, then they can work with you. But if there ever gets to the point, and I'm not saying that they're at that point, obviously, but if it gets to the point where they don't trust you, you won't see the field.
The quarterback now is Damian Hobbs for Oregon on this Mariasu possession. Cedar Hill High School, Cedar Hill, Texas. And he is also going to be a redshirt player in the fall. He's had it a year already in the Oregon program. But I want to get back to the point we got distracted there by the turnover. There's a nice gain. Tyner runs that ball out to 45.
Well, this is what the Oregon offense, I believe, has missed the last couple of years, and that's when you turn north and south, do you seek contact? Do you run through contact, or do you run away from it? And Tyner's showing the attitude that we're going to run through it, and I truly believe that was a big issue for this offense the last couple of years.
And I was going to tell you the same thing, back to that original Stanford point. What I took away from that, Glenn, was that the 2 games that Oregon lost last year, and Mark Helfrich told us about it. One was to a team that ran hurry up. The other was to a team that ran goal line. This is the way Mark phrased it. But the common denominator in both is, in both games, Oregon got run over.
Yes.
And Kadeem Carey, the number, and I remember we counted this, the number of yards Kadeem Carey had after contact against the Oregon defense last year was stunning.
It was stunning, and it was the ability to keep his legs driving, seek contact, and just keep pushing that pace, and that's what doomed Oregon. And interesting enough, so the teams that beat them, you and I tend to think, you know, they got run over, and those offenses ran through the defense. But that's what maybe the defense hasn't seen in practice, because Oregon's offense hasn't been doing that the way they used to with LeGarrette Blount and others. So I truly believe they need to get back to a little more of their inside zone, north-south running with some power. That'll help the defense as well.
Yeah, seeing it in practice.
Yeah, seeing backs run through contact.
That's interesting. And of course, you had 2 top running backs who did that against Oregon last year. Kadeem Carey was brilliant, and Tyler Gaffney did most of the running that night for Stanford, and he had an outstanding senior year. And a wide run here, and that is Bassett. Bassett takes it for a first down. As the Oregon schedule, the Ducks will play all 3 of their non-con games here. And, of course, highlighted is a giant game against the Rose Bowl champions.
Yeah, you've got the Rose Bowl champions, Michigan State, and then you've got Stanford. Both those here at Autzen Stadium. But they do have to go to UCLA. That's another tough game.
Oregon will miss USC again this year. Of course, in the Pac-12 situation now, there are 2 misses every year. So Oregon and USC will not play for the second straight year.
Still a tougher schedule than other conferences.
Yeah, that was a topic of conversation this week, too. I was listening to that one and intently. The Pac-12 had a mass call the other day with all of the football coaches taking turns in that SEC conversation. And, you know, the SEC is just, they don't care. They just do it because they can.
That's right. It has not hurt them, and they don't care.
Exactly. They're only going to play 8 conference games, and they don't care. And they tell you their league is tough, and it is, but so is the Pac-12.
That's right.
And the SEC just doesn't care. Hobbs keeping that ball, running it again into the first contact.
Well, they mark it as a sack, I believe. O'Shea Dunmore coming outside. Showed good speed, good move. Hardest thing about a tackle out there in space is sometimes you see a big guy, and next thing you look up, you got a little guy with a lot of speed on you, and you got to be able to move.
Nice receiver bunch, 3 receiver bunch to the left for the Ducks. And a keeper, so Hobbs. That's one of the things I love about watching the Oregon offense. They show you the 3 receiver bunch left, run a play action to the right, and the quarterback keeps the ball up the middle.
Yeah, split that defense, get defense heavy in the secondary to one side. The inside 7 running with the ball one way, and that is a natural seam in the defense then that opens up for the QB keep on the zone read.
All right, let's check in now with one of the just finished Ducks players. We're going to do that in a moment. One of the great things you've seen develop here with Oregon football are the number of terrific players, both past and just past, that are here. One of them is with Jill Savage. Go ahead, Jill.
Well, thank you so much, Josh Huff. He was over there talking to his teammates. We had to steal him away. What's it like for you being at a spring game and now just hanging out on the sidelines?
It's definitely weird. It's a weird environment to be on the opposite end of, watching these guys instead of actually playing. But it's a great feeling to be back in Austin once again, and just being around the guys that I, grew great relationships with.
One of those guys, Braylon Addison, unfortunately tore his ACL this spring. How difficult is that to see one of your old teammates go down like that?
It's very difficult. Not only he's a teammate of mine, but he's just like a brother to me. And when I first heard the news, I was devastated because I was looking for him to do big things this year. But as I told him, things happen for certain reasons, and God has a plan. So I just told him to go attack his rehab and get back and become stronger and faster and be one of the best receivers come next year.
You two were the leaders in the wide receiving corps last year. Who do you think is going to step up and fill that void this year?
I definitely believe it's going to be Kenan Lowe. He's been sitting back, waiting his turn, and now he has his opportunity to become one of the elite receivers in the nation and in the Pac-12. And then along with Kenan, you have Darren Carrington, you have Dwayne Stafford, and you have a lot of young guys that's trying to step in and fill that role. So we'll see once fall camp comes around, and we'll actually see who steps up into that void.
And then how are draft preparations going for you? How are the workouts going? And now it's just kind of, is it a sitting around and wait at this point?
Yeah, most definitely. You just got to continue to stay in shape and, do things that you normally do. This is a full-time job for me now, and taking advantage of each and every day, each and every opportunity I have. And right now it's just a sit and wait game, and wait until next Thursday or Friday or Saturday to hear my name called.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you, Ted.
All right. Josh Huff with that leading receiving number. Meanwhile, Taylor Alley trying to throw a scramble throw, and a flag went down as Alley was firing that ball up the field, and there's the reason. It's going to be 4th down now for the Twifo team. And again, the number of receptions with Addison's injury, you just do the math, it's almost 170 receptions to replace.
And we mentioned 68% of those went to the wide receivers. So, you know that they're going to bring more wide receivers in. But will we see more of a running back, tight end presence in the pass game. Interesting to see. I don't think they'll change their offense that drastically. I think they're going to find wide receivers. They might end up finding it goes through the running backs and the tight ends more because of the lack of experience, but I don't think that it'll be a conscious choice to get there.
A fair catch here. That was Devin Allen taking the fair catch for Oregon. One thing about the Oregon wide receivers that struck me, Glenn, and you can speak, given your background, much better about this, but it strikes me that Oregon's receivers have been very good blockers here, and that's been a key to that outside running game.
Part of the spread zone read concept is when your quarterback is running and he whether he's pitching or not, is you on the edges you have to block well. You have to have your leverage, and so wide receivers have a toughest job blocking, not only because of where they are, they're out in a lot of space, but remember they're right in front of the official too. So their hands have to be absolutely clean, absolutely perfect, or they're going to be called for holding. And so if you get guys that will do it willingly and are good at it, it just adds a huge dimension to your offense.
All right, Lockheed's trying to find Allen, and he fired that away. Now this is coming back, and that's comfort when you think, okay, they've lost receivers, but you have 1,700 plus rush yards coming back.
Yeah, and
that's just the running backs. I'm not counting Mariota.
When you look at those numbers in rushing yards with those three guys, what that does is give you confidence that whoever comes in at the wide receiving core, defenses are going to be so keyed into and so prone to wanting to stop the zone read, inside zone, outside zone with Marcus Mariota and Marshall and Tyner that you're going to have some wide receivers running open.
I thought it was interesting. I've had to, given the new era we're in, the Pac-12 network, this is our second spring, and carrying every one of the conference's spring football games on television. This has never happened before. Lockheed keeping the ball. So I couldn't help but ask Mark, how would you, since this is the end, Oregon State are the last two spring games you've been watching this spring? I've watched a little bit of, I think he said USC maybe, or a little bit of Washington. But he said, I did watch a little bit of Michigan State. Mark did let that one slip.
Yeah, I'm sure that they've got recordings on a VHS somewhere. I would imagine every team has been watching what they can.
Yeah, there's a missed shot.
That's the shot we talk about,
exactly.
Making the routine.
Right.
He's open. Get it to him. And that's tough. You get excited. You see, you've got the shot, you take it, and Lockheed just gets that one up and over the top on an open receiver.
Stanford was running down there along just outside the left hash.
What a great opportunity these spring games are, though, for these coaches. We talk about, are they watching? Probably. But what a great opportunity to showcase themselves as a program. How many future recruits get to watch and see how practices are run, the demeanor of the coach in a practice?
Look at the amount of space there. That's so much a part of the Oregon run game. Bassett got that head up, and there was nobody. Watch how far Bassett goes here before anybody's even an ability to touch him.
Yeah, the offensive line all blocks to their right. That draws that inside seven with them, and that handoff coming the other way. There's a ton of space before a safety, DB, outside linebacker can close ground.
So Lockheed trying to generate something just before halftime here. Now Oregon playing this game like they would play a normal game. They're going to run about 700 plays here in the first half.
Habits are built in the spring. Let's make sure our tempo is up, that we're making the right decisions. Let's keep going. We want to build that habit so that when we go in the fall, it's not a shock to you.
And there goes Bassett to the outside, but he is dragged down. Another timeout taken here by the Mariasu offense. And then Don Pelham brings over his defense. You see the salute today, all the Oregon players wearing Instead of a name on their jerseys, the salute the day in honor of the military presence today. Strong military presence here in Eugene. But a minute.
Air Force and Army all up there. And between quarters, they had a swearing in ceremony for a bunch of young men and women joining the military. And there's defense on this day, along with Coach Pelham. In the Pac-12, their rankings always good, and that's a product of offense putting up points, pressuring the other team. So many offensive coordinators we talk to always say, you know, the defensive coordinator's got problems, but an offensive coordinator against Oregon always feels the pressure to keep up. You have to score. You have to keep things moving.
That was J.J. Jones, the intended receiver. Sophomore from Los Angeles. Rocky delivers that ball into the middle of the field. And that's going to be a first down gain. Austin Deitch on that catch. Well, a lot of young skill position players getting opportunities here. Well, that one, that looked dangerous and nearly was caught by Stanford.
So Lockie's made some really good decisions in this game, and that's one that you just can't make that decision. That ball's up in the air, it's going back across your body. Defense can play center field, and the outcome didn't hurt you, but you don't want the day where the outcome does hurt you. So that's just a learning process. That's just you learning to be the leader and take the loss and say we'll get it next time.
Stanford, it's a big-bodied receiver, which is what gives him the chance. And let's see where that ball went. That was not covered by the offense.
The man in motion looked like he turned. The ball hit him in the arm. I don't know whether it was designed to actually be snapped to the motion man or was it mistimed. We'll take a look right here. Motion man turns. That ball comes out. That's just mistimed snap. And so your quarterback, Lockie, when you bring the man in motion, you've got to get him clear before you restart your cadence to get that ball snapped.
All right, so the Twifo team, we've had 3 turnovers in this first half. The Twifo team that has not scored a point. Jake Rodriguez quarterbacks, 33 seconds and 3 timeouts for them. And this is Oregon. They're going to try to go fast. That's Darren Carrington, and it's a good, nice story. You see the club on his right hand here. Carrington is a player that is going to be counted on. Coaches freely say we're going to need him in the fall, but he dislocated a finger early in spring ball. Has not practiced very much, but they gave him the clearance to play today with that protection on the right hand. So Scott Frost said he's going to try to catch passes with a hand and a half.
Yeah, hard to do as a wide receiver, but just he got it done. Well, that's a painful injury. Anytime as a player, you always said this: the farther away from your heart, the more things hurt. You break a toe or a finger; those are the most painful darn injuries, and there's nothing you can do for them. You wrap them up and you go.
And Rodriguez airs one out, incomplete. So you have a mix in the receivers that Oregon is utilizing and the ones that are going to try to fill the Huff and Addison absences. And you've got guys like Carrington and Allen that have more speed and guys that can stretch the field. And you have big-bodied like Stanford, that we've seen him throw the ball to a few times. He's a 6'5" guy. He gives you that big, stronger receiver.
Yeah, a guy that can block for you on the edge, but a guy that can use his body in space.
That's going to be a big first down run out near midfield. And so it is Benoit, we're told is the pronunciation. So Benoit carries that ball out to the 45-yard line. Rodriguez trying to throw one more here. No, they blow that dead on contact. And that will end the first half. So we'll have a shorter halftime before they get back here to play the second half of this Oregon spring game. And so in the first half, you saw a little competitive nature of these players. And
choosing teams amongst themselves. The intramural aspect, yeah, but a little competition on a nice morning in Eugene as we swing into the early afternoon. Mariota with a couple of touchdown passes. Those are the first half points for the Ducks. Second half coming right up. A little halftime update from Mark Helfrich now with Jill.
Thank you very much, Ted. 14-0 at halftime. I thought I was at an Oregon game. What's going on in the first half?
A little sluggish, a little sloppy. Way too many turnovers if you're an offensive fan, and doing okay defensively. But we got a few guys playing out of position, but we still shouldn't have that many turnovers. But so far so good. Stay healthy, get through it, compete through the second half. But see what Twifo can get. Twifo. See what they can get going here.
What do you think about the quarterback battle going on in that first half?
Not good enough. Not clean enough. A lot of times those guys are pressing, trying to win the job with one throw, and that's the first way and easiest way to lose it. So just take care of the ball, make great decisions, and when you're working with a bunch of guys that aren't going to play, you've got to just take care of yourself.
And what do you want to see out of the defense? I know you're an offensive coach, but defensively, what do you want to see here in the second half?
I'm a team guy. Just everybody, play hard and compete. That's what we need to do, and it's been decent so far.
Thank you so much. Ted, back up to you.
All right, Jill. I like as you see, Mariota's got a baseball cap on, so he threw 7 passes, ran 5 times in his action today. Probably a little more than we thought. But I'm not surprised, Glenn, or you to hear about the first thing Mark talked about, turnovers.
The one thing about football in general is because no matter how fast you play, or your tempo, or what you're doing, it still comes down to opportunities. And so by playing fast, you're trying to create more opportunities. But if you turn the ball over, you lose those opportunities. And it's one of those stats every coach knows, because the game ultimately comes down to about either acquiring time or land, and those are opportunities.
Jake Rodriguez going for the big shot here, and there'll be a pass interference flag. Chance Allen is another bigger-bodied receiver. He's in that mold we were referencing at the end of the first half, 6'2", 200.
Yeah, a guy draped on him, still kept his body upright and had a chance to make a play on the ball. And here you go. You got hands all over him, pulling his pants down, and still able to hold himself into a position to make a play on the ball.
And you also will note, if you're watching carefully in the upper left, that they're going to have running time here in the second half, because hey, we have to make sure we get to Corvallis. The Beavers game follows.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one up there.
Pac-12 networks.
Steven Jackson's going to be up in the booth with the guys, with Rich Tweeney and Yogi Roth for a bit.
All right, a pitch back, and then Rodriguez was actually touched on the escape route there, so that'll be blown dead behind the line of scrimmage. Yeah, it's nice to see Steven Jackson was at the Pac-12 tournament also in Las Vegas, hanging with Gary Payton a little bit, if I remember correctly. So I love that part of spring football. We had Doug Baldwin with us in the booth at the Stanford spring game when the alums come back.
And it's interesting. Throughout the Pac-12, the alums come back a lot, and it's because the atmosphere. It's something that you miss when you're in the NFL. The NFL is great. It's the most thrilling place that you can play, and it's the top of the game. But there is something, I guess, innocent and almost romantic about college football that you kind of yearn for after your first couple years in the pros, where it is all about business.
Rodriguez, the short throw here to the 50-yard line, which is also, just last point here, is what I guess I get staggered by it and a little bit angered sometimes when I hear the players who introduce themselves on the big NFL games. And I'm Glenn Parker.
Oh, I never did this.
Arizona.
Oh, I see.
Right, I'm saying?
Yes.
But then occasionally you'll see the guy that will say his high school.
Right.
I don't understand that.
I don't either.
It bugs me. I got to be honest. It bugs me. And I'm sure there's personal reasons that are involved that I don't know in these individual cases, but it bugs me.
In some cases, it's probably just giving a little love to the guys that got you to partway there.
We're turning over now back to the Mariasu Well, the defense here, that turnover margin is staggering as well. And as we've mentioned, and you know that on defense here, you're going to be on the field.
Yeah, and
you'll be on the field for a lot of snaps, a lot of time.
And what happens, I think it's a lot of those takeaways. It's a process of your offense has scored so quickly that the minute the other team as a coordinator doesn't keep up, they come out the next time and now they're 2 scores down. So they panic, and that's where you get a bad ball thrown. That's what happens. A running back trying to do too much. And that's where you become so opportunistic as a defense, the way the Ducks have been, what those numbers show is so many times teams put themselves in a bad position and help you out. And that's a product of this offense scoring as much and the tempo that they're going, and then understanding that that's what it's going to be and being opportunistic and taking advantage of those things. That's what a good defensive coordinator does.
Well, there's a nice throw by Lockie. That is sharp to B.J. Kelly. So Kelly, who had the penalty covering the punt in the first half, good first down catch here as a receiver. Well, back on the defensive theme, we touched about the 2 games, the ones that Oregon didn't win last year. There's a double pitch again. Second time they've run this play. And Allen, the track standout here, we will talk about in a second, gets the carry. But this is what teams did to beat Oregon. You see, most rush attempts in the country last season, 2 of the top 3 came against the Ducks.
And that just shows you so much. With Tyler Gaffney at Stanford, Kadeem Carey at Arizona, those were losses for the Ducks. And so what that showed, and both of those were, whether it be Stanford, who runs power and lead right, straight north and south, or the zone read concept of Arizona, where Kadeem Carey inside zone, running straight downhill, running through tackles. In my mind, that's a product of the offense of Oregon, where they've lost their way a little bit. They were going side to side. Right. Well, it's the reason. See, that's the same reason why Stanford is so successful, is because teams can't scout a Stanford offense. They don't have tight ends on their roster, so they can't. When it comes time to have your scout team offense play against your defense never sees that, because you don't have a tight end on the roster, so it's hard to mimic. So I really think that what your defense or offense sees.
That's a nice play. Wow. A double handoff and then the pitch back. And Jeff Lockie throws that one right on the money to Austin Daitch for the touchdown.
Well, when you're expected to make the play, you make the play. Beautiful job, little reverse pitch. There's a great job isolating on the wide receivers. He's behind the defender, and the ball's delivered perfectly. There's making the routine. Now, it wasn't routine, but boy, he put it that way, didn't he? Great throw. So just to finish up my thought, it's whatever your team sees the most of during the week from your own team, that's what you get used to. Something out of the ordinary, tough to self-scout on.
Austin Daitch, he's from a great beach town, Aptos, California, just south of Santa Cruz. I'd like to be mayor there. That's another story, but Austin Daitch catches a nice touchdown pass. And let's go down to the sideline and join Jill Savage.
Thank you very much. Marcus Mariota here with me. How did your day feel out there? It wasn't very long today.
It was a lot of fun, though. It's times like these that, you have to just enjoy it, and I had a lot of fun today.
What do you think so far of the other quarterbacks? We've been seeing a lot of them today. What is your assessment of your fellow quarterbacks?
They're doing all right. They got through, some of them got some adversity they had to go through, and they're still battling it. But, to see them play in live situations is good.
One of the guys that his name kept popping up when we talked to the coaches was Taylor Alley, a local kid here out of Sheldon High School. They said he might be the one guy that's surprising a lot of people. What do you think of his game so far this spring?
He's done an unbelievable job. As a freshman, he's kind of learned a lot. He's he's a smart mind. He's quick to just make good decisions. Unfortunately, he threw an interception earlier today, but he's going to bounce back. He's a great athlete, and he's going to do good.
We've spoken with both Josh Huff and Braylon Addison today, 2 guys you had last year but won't have this year. What's that wide receiver core going to look like?
It's going to be a lot of young guys, and a lot of them have showed up today. Devin showed up great today. Dwayne, there's a lot of athletes out there that we can rely on, and they're going to be great for us.
Now, you chose to come back for another year. How does it feel to be back in the uniform for the spring game, preparing for the fall?
This is why, these are one of the reasons why I come back, for moments like these, to experience stuff like this, to be able to kind of go out there and give credit to the National Guard and whatnot, and to be able to enjoy some of these experiences is stuff that I get to take and cherish for the rest of my life.
Now your team just went out there and scored again. You were out there celebrating with your teammates, but 21-0. Are we going to see a few more points on the scoreboard before this is done?
Oh, for sure. Yellow team will bounce back. Like I said, Taylor will drive them down probably, and we'll see. There's still some time left.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Ted, back to you.
All right, Jill. Well, Taylor Alley continuing on this series. I thought it was interesting. Preston's up here keeping stats for us today. He's a student at Oregon. He told us that Mariota got ready for the spring football game by playing softball this week. He plays intramural softball on campus.
See, that's great. Putting himself out there. You don't see many athletes anymore. When I was in school, we had we did a basketball team or whatnot because you're afraid of getting hurt. But what it does is it brings him to the student body. It makes him human. I think so many times kids that are on a campus, they see the stars and they never interact with them because they're kept separate. They're in their football facility, their football dorm. It's great if he gets out there and he's a student. That's what he should be doing.
I remember the first time I met him, I guess it was the 2012 season, and when I first saw him, I couldn't believe the length of his fingers. And I remember asking him if he played baseball. And of course, he grew up in Honolulu, and he wasn't exposed. He said he played soccer. He wasn't playing football. So he's never really he would have been a phenomenal pitcher with those long fingers. And, of course, it doesn't apply in slow-pitch softball. It doesn't work the same. Now his day done, so he gets a chance to watch here as we are in the third quarter again, playing for the most part with running time. Right now, a lot of opportunities though for these Oregon players on both sides. We're just looking in the first half of this game. They ran 78 plays combined.
So is that all?
Plenty of action for the men on both sides. And, of course, the other thing you want to avoid is when we saw it in the Stanford game where Stanford had a running back go down with an injury. That's the other thing you want to make sure you do the best you can to get through something like this without significant hurt.
Well, stay up on your blocks, no cutting on the backside. Try to avoid the easy hit when some guy's not protected. Be a good teammate as well as a competitor.
Carries here for J.J. Jones.
Right there, inside zone. You want him to just hit it, but there's a bit of dancing in the backfield. And it's almost as if a lot of these guys, they're not comfortable yet with that concept of north-south running. And you'd like to see them. That's an opportunity for a young back, or a kid who hasn't seen the field as much. Put your nose in there, get 4 yards. Show that you're going to be the tough-nosed runner.
Well, that one didn't work. That did not follow the prescription.
That is what we call buyer beware. You have a guard pulling. As a back, you're supposed to be on his outside hip and follow him in the hole. Instead, you see a little bit of a gap in the backside open up, so you take it there where it's not designed to go, and it shuts off quickly. We always tell running backs, hey, if you don't follow where I'm going, buyer beware.
I wish you folks could see. If we had spy cam on Parker when these things happen, as an old offensive lineman, he goes nuts when these things happen.
I do. My hands flail about, and I get a little aggravated.
By the time we get together again in the fall, I want to see a picture of the Parker bobblehead, by the way. I want to see if Jeff Lockie's father can give us one from his closet. Empty backfield here as Jake Rodriguez fires one out. And that's Jonathan Lloyd. So Jonathan Lloyd does get a chance to catch, and listen to the fans here.
Yeah, and his teammate put a little hit on him, welcomed him with a good shot.
So that gets Lloyd some game action. This time Rodriguez hit. And nope, they're going to call that an incomplete pass.
Well, there you go. He's an inside receiver, and little delay, and out he goes. Ball gets to him. And now you got to love that Robinson comes up and smacks him a little bit. Welcomes him to the turf.
Jonathan Lloyd from Las Vegas. We mentioned he's just finished his basketball eligibility at Oregon, but he does have this chance to play one football season. He was a two-way player in high school. The basketball career, tremendous, and really the week that he sparkled is on that bottom. It was 14 months ago in Las Vegas, and he was the MVP of the Pac-12 tournament, got the Ducks in, and then eventually led them to the Sweet 16.
Well, so often we see basketball players in terms of tight, become a tight end.
Yeah.
The college forward who's not good enough for the NBA comes. How often do you ever see a point guard transition? Charlie Ward, maybe. Let's see, he's got to get used to that. The contact nature.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball is a contact sport. Football is a collision sport.
Yeah.
There's lots of
it's not supposed to happen that far down the field, of course, but that's another story. There's an interference foul there. It was called on Reggie Daniels. So the ball just across midfield for Jake Rodriguez. Rodriguez and Lockie getting a lot of snaps here. Now we've got a player hurt, so there's our offensive lineman Slow getting up. We'll talk about that when we come back. But that gets us to the end of the third quarter in the Oregon spring game. And that's the best play of the third quarter. Jeff Lockie to Austin Daitch for the third Mariasu touchdown. The spring games, Glenn, so teams aren't going to show a lot of stuff, but we're seeing some interesting formations from Oregon today.
Well, yeah, look at that. Trips all the way on the left, big satellite formation, run a little reverse. I like the way, that's neat to see because you can actually see the receivers out there running those routes. They might score a touchdown off that if they do a little something off of that deal. So, then you kind of come back and you show a little something else. And what you're doing, by showing all these type of things, by showing that trips with a reverse and then a pitch and then you're just giving all the other teams in the Pac-12 something to work on. If it takes them 2 reps in practice to work on it, that's 2 reps they could have been working on something you're probably really going to do.
So Jake Rodriguez starts the fourth here with a keep, and he's going to score. Well, actually, they may blow that dead. There was a little contact, and they'll blow that play dead around the 10-yard line.
Reggie Daniels on the tag.
There you go. Splits it wide open. Now, I like what he does. Eyes, setting up blocks, finding that space. Remember, who's the best blocker? The guy with the ball. The guy with the ball is his own blocker. He has to set those things up. He did a nice job right there, weaving his way and setting up blocks for the guys downfield.
Oh, that one. Interesting throw into a lot of bodies, and it was off Kerrigan's hand.
Like everybody got a hand on that thing. I think you touched it.
Darren Carrington. Now, this is a tough ball for Darren Carrington to try to catch.
Oh, yeah.
With that club on his hand.
Especially his inside hand, his top hand is the one that's hurt. Bounces off him, bounces off the defender.
All right, Ford on that carry gets just inside the 10. This Twifo team wants to score. They're getting a little stung, I'm sure, by having a 0 on the board. That one's going to be way over the mark. Again, trying to hit Carrington out there.
When you see pressure right up in the face of the quarterback, when you have offensive linemen not used to working together, combination blocks are tough. It's tough to run your zone. It's tough if you have a slide on. So you see a trick, some sort of twist of the defense. That's where it shows up.
So the Twifo team here will go for it on 4th down and goal. Jonathan Lloyd and Chance Allen are both in the on. They're going to move Lloyd across to the left side of the formation in the slot. Chance Allen is tight to the right. And to the back of the end zone, trying to give Allen a chance to go up and get it.
Well, Reggie Daniels was all over that. He didn't fall for that outside look of the quarterback. He stayed right where he was supposed to be and was ready. Quarterback's going to come up and look to the left, and Daniels, nice job.
Yes.
Staying in his spot.
All right, so the Mariasu team continuing to pitch a shutout here. Mark Helfrich in the back of the end zone here to watch from behind. Jeff Locke. The words that you hear a lot from coaches in discussing quarterbacks are the positive ones they use about Locke. Why he may have separated himself a little bit to be perhaps a nose in front as the two guy. Consistent. Very consistent. Very good decision making.
And remember the word I said that coaches love? Trust.
Right.
If you're consistent, I know who you are. I can trust you. I can trust the outcome.
And off the play action, a little roll to Johnny Munt. First catch for Johnny Munt. I got Locke and Jake Rodriguez leading in what we guess to be the race to be the backup to Mariota, and that's always going to be a question when you have a quarterback. I mean, look, as many teams have faced this issue, when you have a guy that can be a weapon running the ball like Mariota, how much do you risk? The risk-reward ratio, and look at that from last year on this when Mariota got banged up.
Yeah, his own rushing yards, you remember he had a bad knee, so he couldn't run as well. That certainly affected their offense because it takes part of his game out. And so you look at the rushing touchdowns, how much they lost with that injury to him. So, and of course the record. But yeah, you're right. What is the risk? And famously with the same Oregon team back when Dixon was the quarterback and got hurt on a play. And then down at, it was at Arizona on a Thursday night, he hurts himself and they lost that game. It is a very tough decision where you have a weapon of that type that can throw the ball so well, but yet you run him as that change-up that affects the defense, but you certainly put that asset at risk then.
And Locke going to keep the ball and be touched down just across the 20-yard line. The question is not, I guess it's not as applicable or as urgent in college. The risk is not what it would be in the professional level. When Marcus Mariota plays professional football, he's not going to be allowed to, in all likelihood, run the way he runs here.
Well, there's, the issue when in the college team you have 85 scholarships, 100 kids on the field, so your depth is certainly built in, and you only have them for 4 years, you're constantly building that depth behind them. In the pros, if you sign a guy, you have him, you're not as worried about that. You don't have 53 guys on your roster, and only 46 of those are active on a day. So it's much more imperative in the pros that you protect that asset.
The great Bill Walsh told me when I asked him once of how Vince Young would fare in the pros, and he said he's never seen defenders as fast as he will see, and that's the element. As you see Locke now on that last rollout, obviously banged himself, and he's coming off.
And certainly going back to that point, Vince Young, the change in the game of, say, a Cam Newton, how his game has changed. He still runs when he needs to, but it's not the part of his game that it was in college. Colin Kaepernick at Nevada was a running veer option guy who could throw the ball. Now he's a throwing quarterback that can run occasionally if he has to. It changes the dynamic. Because those defenders out there are every bit as fast as you. They're usually every bit as big as you.
And I'm going to tell you, Glenn, what I think for number 8 and the Oregon Ducks. I mean, this is nothing. This is not an ingenious thought, but yes, they have Michigan State early, and they have some challenging conference games. But this year, to me, for Mark Helfrich and the Ducks, it's about November. They've got to win November.
That's right.
They didn't win November last year, and it cost them a chance to play for the big shot.
That's right. They've got to worry about that slate of games. And Rick Neuheisel, the coach, always says the games they'll remember are the ones they play in November. Stanford sitting there at the start. They have to get over that hump. You know, obviously Utah, Colorado, and then the Civil War. So,
and obviously, if they lose 3 games in September, that point's moot. But what I'm referencing is in Mariota. You want Mariota to be as healthy as he can be, as strong as he can be in November.
That's right. In the way we always have said it, in my own experience playing, Coach, do you need me in August training camp, or do you need me for the playoff run? Right. That's where we got to get to.
Yeah, that's the pro mindset.
Right.
But in this point, with Oregon, the expectation here, they want to play for the championship.
Their success in the past and what they've built here, expectations among the fan base, among the players themselves. We heard them in the media last year saying it. I'm certain among the coaches. You have to have the mindset you're going to play for a championship. That's how you get to the championship. So I think you're absolutely right. That mindset that's what's expected.
So under 5 minutes now remaining in this spring game. Taylor Alley back on the field after Lockie went off. Taylor Alley had a great compliment paid him by his offensive coordinator. And asked Scott Frost, what have you noticed about Taylor Alley now in this spring you've had him after a year as a redshirt player? And there's a nice throw, and is that going to be caught for a touchdown? Yes. Well, that's a nice throw, and how about that catch by a guy with a hand and a half, Carrington? And they've given him a lot of chances to make that kind of play.
Ali, it's a little roll. He's got his eyes downfield, and he delivers his ball. But the adjustment to the ball by Carrington is impressive. And gets his feet in, gets them both in, looking down. That's an impressive adjustment by your wide receiver.
2 redshirt guys, redshirt quarterback to redshirt receiver. And what Scott Frost said about Taylor Alley is something we talk about in our quarterback room all the time is what happens when the lights go on. And he said, Taylor Alley, that kick is partially blocked. So Taylor Alley shines. He said, this is a guy that we see, he doesn't fold. He doesn't buckle when the lights are the brightest under pressure.
Yeah, and in football, it's when the lights go on, cockroaches seek cover. and a good player likes those lights on. And what a nice job. You'd mentioned Taylor Alley. How about Carrington? One hand, flip around, adjust the body, get his feet in. We've talked all day about the loss of receivers to graduation due to injury. You want people to show up in spring and give you an idea who they might be in the fall. And there's one right there showing up big for the Ducks.
So Darren Carrington, and that's going to end up being a pretty significant, could end up being a very significant move that they were able to get the medical clearance. The Ducks were to play him today. Again, he hasn't practiced very much in the spring since dislocating a finger. It's also shocking we even know that. That's where we are today, but because this is spring football and there's not going to be any carryover with it, we're able to know about that injury.
And what this can happen. So now the coaches know they've got something. But more importantly, the mental makeup now of Carrington going through summer is, I'm going to be a player.
Exactly.
And so in questioning and maybe because kids are different, maybe they work hard, maybe they don't. Now he's in a position to say, I'm going to be a player, I'm going to work. And such a difference in just that ability and that future of a player, all because of one little bit of spring game.
Damian Hobbs picked up that bouncing ball and fired it away. So with Mariota done for the day, and Lockie apparently got tweaked and he's come off the field, so Damian Hobbs is going to finish up here for the Mariasu team. Little Oregon spring football doubleheader. 35 miles or so north of here to Corvallis for the Beavers spring game coming up.
Damian Hobbs on the keeper for a gain of 2.
Mark Helfrich continues to watch on. Let's go back down to Jill on the sideline.
Thank you very much, Ted. Now, everyone talks about Oregon's uniforms. It's a story every time they release new ones. But today in the spring game, Ted, I have to tell you, you have to take a look at the coaches' shoes. Forget about the cleats that the players are wearing, because the coaches' shoes, they have some exclusive Nike camo shoes. I don't know how I'm going to get a pair, Ted, but I'm going to have to figure out a way, because these are unreal. It's nice, obviously, to have the Nike connection that Oregon does, but Tinker Hatfield, the mastermind behind the brand Jordan, he also was the designer of the basketball court at Oregon. He also designed these custom pair of Nike shoes for the team. He spoke to the team yesterday just about hard work and really what they want to go out and do. They can be able to go out and do anything as long as they put their mind to it. Not a bad guy to have there, Ted.
Like, I hadn't noticed the shoes, Jill. That's a good call. This is a.
Well, I couldn't see them. They were camo. They fit. I mean, I don't. What,
I laugh. Glenn knows this as well. When you're a colorblind person, the Oregon uniforms are more challenging than they are to most. So I struggle enough with the unis. And there's an incompletion thrown after a timeout to give Hobbs some chances here to make some plays before things are over.
They seem to be a little confused as to what they want to get done out there.
Yeah, trying to decide, I think, which change of possessions or which sets of players are going to be on the field. Yeah, Mark Helfrich telling the officials what he would like, where the ball to be spotted. 11 wins.
So he's going to give Jake Rodriguez a chance maybe to run a 2-minute offense here. Get him a chance out here where there's a little pressure. You want to move the ball.
And Rodriguez is well, he threw that. He threw it on a line, but it was caught by Dior Mathis.
It was overthrown just a bit. You had a seam route by your slot man. That means running. You'll see right here, he's going to go right up this hash, and the ball is delivered over rather than right under. Now, credit Mathis out there, who did a great job of playing in between the wide receiver on the outside of the line and in between the receiver on that hash mark. Did a nice job playing in between, making him move on the ball.
All right, Hobbs dumps one underneath. And that, I'm assuming, will be a big part, Glenn, of the evaluation for Mark Helfrich's crew out of this, is this secondary. We've seen a lot of younger defensive backs, newer defensive backs. We've seen a lot of Reggie Daniels in this one. Players that they're counting on, like Tyree Robinson, is coming into a more prominent role.
Yeah, because what they're looking at is they already know physically what they got with those guys. They've had them in the program. They've been around. But now, when things are happening, what's their mental processing state? How are they where they're supposed to be? Are they disciplined? And then are they seeing things and reacting? That's all part of the evaluation process for the coaches.
Kelly, who's getting his hands on the ball a little bit in the second half. The other element, other area that Oregon has some experience coming back is the O-line. We've touched just a little bit on it, but led by, of course, Grasu in the middle, who's going to be he'll be a 4-year starter here.
Yeah, phenomenal center, really active, mobile. He's got a lot of explosion and pop off the ball. But the offensive line as a whole, experience. You like that. You lose one guy to graduation, and so you've got a consistency at your offensive line, which is always good. And for them, I think the bulking up procedure, a little more physical, and you keep that November 1st date in your mind.
Okay, so now you'll come back in the fall with me? Because I talked about the offensive line.
Back.
I waited an hour and 58 minutes.
I know. I wondered when we were going to get there.
Hey, there's going to be a touchdown on the final play. Devin Allen. Yeah, and there's a name we've touched on him. He's a redshirt freshman from Brophy Prep in Phoenix. He has been a track standout, got school best times in the hurdles.
And a name that Braylon Addison told us he's going to be a player.
Yep. So if there's a player to watch, perhaps in that wide receiver core, 2 players to watch coming out of the spring game. We've seen Carrington and Allen, names to pay attention to for the fall. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the Ducks spring football game from Autzen Stadium in Eugene on this final Saturday. Final of 4s enjoyed bringing you spring football on the Pac-12 networks. And of course, don't forget we have Corvallis coming up, and then tonight our studio crew recaps all things that happen around the Pac-12 in the spring. Thanks to our Pac-12 Networks crew with Glenn Parker and Jill Savage. I'm Ted Robinson. Thanks for being with us in Eugene.